What do you do if your mallet finger splint keeps falling off? Hey everybody, this is Michelle from Virtual Hand Care, and in this video, I'm gonna show you 3 tips to help keep your mallet finger splint secure on your finger. Now, before we dive in, make sure you grab my free mallet finger starter kit, where I share 5 tips for a successful recovery. You'll find the link here. Okay, tip number 1 is to use tape. So any kind of a waterproof tape, a skin-friendly tape like paper tape will work. I really like to use K-tape, kinesio tape, muscle-aid tape. That is very skin-friendly, and it's also waterproof, and it's made to stay on your skin for longer lengths of time. So a few different ways to use the tape to keep your mallet finger splint from falling off is to make sure that you are actually applying part of the tape on your splint and then part of the tape on your skin. If you have tape that's actually just on the splint, then the splint is just going to slip right off because there's no way for it to stick onto your skin. You want to make sure you have some of that tape on your skin as well as some of the tape on your splint. Another way to use the tape is to tape your finger first and then put your splint on. So to do that, you would use the kinesio tape or K-tape, and you would want to go ahead and tear off just part of the backing. And then you would want to lay that flat on the table, because then if you're going to be removing your splint, you have to make sure that your finger is supported, right? So then what you do is you want to place your finger on the tape, and then you're going to go ahead and just rub that tape and make sure it sticks on your skin really good. All the while I'm supporting the tip of my finger. Then you would take the rest of that tape and then you would come up and over your finger with just a little bit of a stretch. And as you can see, that has supported me in quite a bit of extension. So then what you can do is place your splint back on your finger. And then you can apply another piece of tape around the splint and your finger just to keep that a little bit more secure. And you can always do a little shake test to make sure that it's not going anywhere. Now, another helpful tip with the tape is to go a little bit farther down into the finger and not just tape at the tip of the finger or, just at this PIP joint. It's okay to go a little bit farther down on your finger. That can also help keep the splint on and prevent it from falling off the farther down you go. So another way is to cut yourself a thinner piece of tape and then attach it to your splint. And then what you can do is just do a light pull of the tape a little farther down and around the finger. So as you can see, I've done like a little X right here. Again, this is a nice and secure way to tape your splint on. Just make sure if you're going to wrap any kind of tape that has a little bit of a stretch to it, that you don't pull or stretch too much, and keep an eye on your swelling to make sure the tape is not keeping the swelling in your finger. And then a great alternative to taping is to use a Band-Aid. A Band-Aid is very skin friendly. It's made to go on your skin. And so you can see on my ring finger, I've used a Band-Aid. I actually cut it long ways and I applied it onto my fingertip here and then applied it onto my splint. Band-Aids are really good when your skin is getting kind of aggravated from the adhesive, especially if you have some tenderness over the top of your finger. Now, a second way to help prevent your mallet finger splints from falling off is to use Coban. So I really like Coban because it sticks to itself and it's not sticky on your skin. So it's a really good alternative if you're having some irritation with the adhesive from the tape. And so to apply the Coban, you would want to apply it at the very tip of the finger, and then you would wrap it around halfway on itself. If you don't want to apply too much of a stretch with Coban, especially when you come down to your skin, because it will make your finger swell. So again, you just have to be careful with that. But what you want to do is make sure you go all the way down to the whole entire finger when you are applying Coban. And the good thing about the Coban is that you can still bend through it. So you can still do some of your exercises and you should still be able to bend that middle PIP joint. Now, if you've tried the Coban and you just still feel like it slips and slides, there's a couple of additional ways that you can help keep this splint on. So you would want to actually go a little farther down with the Coban, and you would want to make sure that you wrapped into the palm. And then of course you want to make sure you wrap then around the thumb. By wrapping it from the fingertip all the way down into the palm and then going a little bit farther past the thumb, that makes this very secure and this splint isn't going to go anywhere. Then if you really want to make sure that this splint is nice and secure, you can take another piece of Coban and actually stick it on the finger, and then you can stretch over the top of your splint and then just kind of nice and securely stick that on, and then kind of squeeze that, and that will help that Coban stick together. Now, obviously this solution is probably not something you're gonna wanna do every single day. However, this could be a really good option if maybe you're gonna be a little more physical that day, maybe you're gonna be exercising, or you're gonna be doing some heavier work. By using the tape and using the Coban, you can definitely rest assured that your splint is nice and secure. And then my third tip for keeping your mallet finger splint on and preventing it from falling off is to wear gloves for whatever kind of activity it is that you're noticing the mallet finger splint is like slipping off. Then you may find that wearing gloves, such as this latex-free disposable glove, could be a helpful solution for you. But you have to be really careful whenever you are putting gloves on that hand, because the last thing you want is to slip it off and your splint is still stuck in the glove. Nobody's gonna want that. So you do have to be really careful when you're using gloves and taking them off and on. Now, one bonus tip that I'd like to give you if you are still noticing your mallet finger splint is falling off is to have a custom splint made for you. If your splint is falling off because your swelling is going down, then it's time to get a new splint, because the tip of your finger is no longer in a good healing position. But even if that custom splint is too big for you or does not ideally fit you, sometimes it can be beneficial to just have a longer one made for you. Perhaps you just need one when you're sleeping at night. Maybe you wake up and your splint is off. Sometimes that can happen, especially with the small finger, because there's just not a lot of real estate. The finger is so small, and the smaller the splint, then the harder it can be to actually have them made for you. So in some cases, it can be beneficial to have something longer made so that it won't slip off. A splint to the whole finger would just be an alternative option for certain activities. Now, if you found this video helpful, do please give it a like, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. And while you're at it, make sure you grab my free mallet finger starter kit, where I share 5 tips for a successful recovery. You'll find the link here. Thanks for watching.